Someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again, C.S. Lewis. Do you remember a time when your heart was filled with wonder, when the world seemed larger than life, and every page you turned transported you to a place where hope was real and heroes never gave up? For Clive Staples Lewis, known to many as C.S. Lewis, that sense of wonder wasn't just a fleeting childhood phase, it was the very essence of his life. Born in Belfast, Ireland, on November 29, 1898, Lewis grew up in a home overflowing with books. Every corner, every room in the house was a sanctuary of stories, each one igniting his young imagination. By the tender age of 12, he had already written his first novel, Boxen, a world brimming with knights and talking animals. These early experiences didn't just shape his childhood, they set the foundation for a literary career that would span decades, giving the world beloved works like the Chronicles of Narnia. But Lewis's journey wasn't just about spinning tales for the sake of fantasy, it was about revealing deeper truths, about giving us glimpses into the spiritual battles we face daily, and ultimately, about the human longing for something beyond ourselves.
Have you ever felt the weight of life's struggles, as if the world around you had grown cold and indifferent? Lewis's early immersion in literature offered him an escape from the hardships he faced, a refuge from the emotional storms of life. His stories remind us that the pain we experience is not the end of the story, there is more beyond what we can see, a reality we can only grasp through faith and imagination. Lewis himself grappled with immense loss, losing his mother at a young age, feeling the absence of his emotionally distant father, and navigating the trauma of boarding school. These wounds, deep and painful, shaped the stories he would later write, stories that give voice to our own deepest struggles. Can you recognize that same longing in your heart? The longing for a place of peace, a home where pain is no longer the final word.
The worlds Lewis created weren't simply to entertain, but to guide us through the emotional landscapes we often avoid confronting. When you think about the stories that shaped you, do they echo the same hunger for meaning, for love, for hope? His novels, filled with brave knights and talking lions, reflected the battles we all face, battles of faith, doubt, love, and loss. The children in the Chronicles of Narnia weren't just stepping into a fantasy world, they were learning how to confront their own fears, their own failures, and ultimately, finding that even in the darkest moments, there is light. Lewis knew that the imagination wasn't just an escape, but a tool for healing, for showing us that there is more to life than our current suffering. As you reflect on Lewis's life and work, consider the ways your own heart longs for a greater story. Maybe you've been carrying burdens that seem too heavy to bear, or maybe you've lost sight of the hope you once had as a child. Lewis's life, his journey from grief to faith, from atheism to Christianity, teaches us that even in the midst of our pain, there is a deeper narrative unfolding. You may feel lost now, but you are not alone in your search for meaning. Like the heroes in his stories, you too are part of a greater adventure, one that is filled with trials, but also promises victory for those who press on. We invite you to stay with us as we explore more about C.S. Lewis's legacy, his struggles, and his profound insights into the human soul. His life offers a roadmap for navigating the emotional wilderness, reminding us that faith and imagination can be our greatest tools in finding hope. Please take a moment to like and comment below. Your reflections are a vital part of this journey as we dive deeper into how Lewis's stories can touch our lives in ways we never imagined. Your thoughts could inspire someone else to find hope amidst their own struggles. Let's keep this conversation going together. Can I get a bless the Lord from you? We were promised sufferings. They were part of the program. We were even told, "Blessed are they that mourn," and I accepted. C.S. Lewis.
What do you do when the very foundation of your world is shaken at such a young age? For C.S. Lewis, the loss of his mother at just 9 years old was not just a moment of sorrow, but a pivotal wound that would change the course of his life. How do you cope with that kind of loss, especially as a child? This deep, irreparable wound didn't just steal away the comfort and security of his home life, it marked the beginning of an emotional wilderness, a journey through grief that would shape him both as a man and as a writer. Lewis poignantly reflects in his autobiography Surprised by Joy, where he describes his mother's death as the moment all settled happiness disappeared from his life. With her passing, it was as though the safe, predictable landscape of his world had sunken like the mythical Atlantis, leaving only fragments of joy and fleeting moments of pleasure.
Do you, too, feel like your safe continent has sunk, leaving you alone to navigate unfamiliar waters? After his mother's death, Lewis's father, Albert, withdrew in his own grief, compounding the young boy's sense of abandonment. The decision to send him and his brother to boarding school, a place marked by cruelty and chaos, only deepened the pain. Lewis's brother, Warren, later remarked bitterly about their father's choice, reflecting how deeply misguided it was, especially when the headmaster of the school was declared insane. How many of us can relate to this sense of misplaced trust, where the very people we look to for protection make decisions that feel like they betray us? In those formative years, young Lewis faced not just external loss, but internal conflict as well. The pressures of boarding school were compounded by his inner battles with faith. Nights that should have been filled with peace became moments of spiritual torment, as he wrestled with what he later termed a false conscience. Instead of solace, his nightly prayers became a source of obsessive scrutiny. He doubted the sincerity of his words, questioning whether he had truly meant them, leading to sleepless nights and spiritual agony. Have you ever felt like you're striving for faith, but somehow always falling short, haunted by the belief that your efforts aren't enough? Lewis, too, knew the weight of this burden, the incessant voice that tells you your prayers aren't reaching heaven, your thoughts aren't pure enough, your efforts aren't enough. Yet, in the midst of this emotional and spiritual turmoil, Lewis's intellectual journey took a transformative turn. At age 16, he began his tutelage under W.T. Kirkpatrick, known as the Great Knock. Kirk was a man of immense intellect and discipline, and under his rigorous mentorship, Lewis developed a profound skill for critical thinking, logic, and expression. Kirk's demand for precision in language and thought gave Lewis the tools to sharpen his mind and find clarity amidst the chaos of his earlier years. This pivotal education shaped Lewis's entire approach to life, faith, and writing, allowing him to express the complexities of belief with both logic and depth. Could it be that, like Lewis, the pain and confusion you're experiencing now is preparing you for something greater, equipping you to face future challenges with wisdom and strength? Though Lewis's early life was marked by profound loss and inner conflict, it was these very struggles that forged his path toward greatness. His ability to articulate the tension between faith and doubt, between longing and reality, speaks to the hearts of all who wrestle with similar questions. Lewis's journey reminds us that it is often through our deepest wounds that the seeds of our greatest growth are planted. We invite you to continue walking through this journey with us. Lewis's life and works hold rich insights into the human experience of faith, pain, and hope. Please like and comment below if these words resonate with your own story, and stay with us as we delve deeper into how Lewis's reflections can offer guidance for your own struggles. Your voice matters in this conversation. Let's explore these truths together, one step at a time. What you see and what you hear depends a great deal on where you are standing. It also depends on what sort of person you are. C.S. Lewis. Have you ever found yourself questioning long-held beliefs or the assumptions passed down through generations? What if those beliefs were just a reflection of the times, rather than an eternal truth? C.S. Lewis, who once walked the path of atheism, grappled with these very questions. His intellectual journey toward faith was not a sudden conversion but a gradual transformation, shaped by the influences of mentors like William T. Kirkpatrick, who sharpened his thinking, and later, through his rejection of what he called chronological snobbery. Kirkpatrick, known as the Great Knock, didn't just teach Lewis to think critically, he taught him how to wield language with precision and to build arguments that could stand the test of time. But what truly makes Kirkpatrick's impact profound is how it laid the groundwork for Lewis's spiritual development. Lewis's meticulously crafted defenses of faith, his deep clarity of thought, and the precision with which he expressed complex theological concepts all bear the marks of Kirkpatrick's rigorous training. Even after Kirk's death, his influence lingered in Lewis's work, as though his mentor's discerning eye continued to guide him through every argument he constructed. But perhaps the deeper question isn't just about intellectual influence, it's about how your own life has been shaped by those who challenge your assumptions. Have you ever been confronted by a mentor, a friend, or even an event that made you question the foundation of your beliefs? Lewis's path to Christianity reveals how critical these moments can be. His journey wasn't simply about winning intellectual debates or mastering language, it was about peeling back the layers of his soul, recognizing that the truths of past generations could offer wisdom to the present. He encountered this truth in his reading of George MacDonald's Phantastes, a moment he described as a bright shadow illuminating his path. It wasn't an intellectual shift alone, it was his imagination being baptized, opening him to a transcendent reality he hadn't previously considered. Have you ever felt that spark, when something you once dismissed suddenly becomes undeniably real? Lewis's rejection of chronological snobbery, this modern belief that newer ideas are inherently better than old ones, became a cornerstone of his faith. He realized that every era has its blind spots, and every generation is tempted to dismiss the wisdom of those who came before. His friendship with Owen Barfield played a pivotal role in this awakening. Barfield challenged Lewis to scrutinize his assumptions about modernity, pushing him to consider whether certain ideas had been truly disproven or simply set aside by cultural shifts. This challenge was transformative for Lewis. It forced him to engage with the past in a way that few modern thinkers do, to immerse himself in ancient texts, allowing the clean sea breeze of the centuries to refresh his mind. And through this, Lewis discovered that timeless truths often have more power than the fleeting ideas of the moment.
But let's pause and reflect on your own journey. How often have you found yourself dismissing something because it seemed outdated, irrelevant, or simply too old to matter? Could it be that in doing so, you've closed the door to wisdom that might offer clarity and insight in your own life? Lewis's story teaches us that true growth comes not from embracing only what is new, but from opening our hearts to the wisdom of both the past and present.
You must picture me alone in that room in Magdalen, night after night, feeling, whenever my mind lifted even for a second from my work, the steady, unrelenting approach of him whom I so earnestly desired not to meet. C.S. Lewis, surprised by joy. Have you ever felt the unsettling sensation of something larger than yourself drawing near a truth, a realization, a change you weren't ready to face? C.S. Lewis's journey to faith was exactly that, a gradual, yet unstoppable approach toward a God he had resisted for years. It wasn't just about coming to terms with religious doctrines, it was about confronting his deepest fears, his doubts, and the long-held objections he had meticulously crafted. As a man of intellect, Lewis wasn't easily swayed by emotion or sentiment. His conversion to Christianity didn't happen in a flash of light or a grand moment of revelation, but through a quiet, internal battle that reflected the struggles of many of us facing truths we'd rather ignore.
Have you ever questioned your own beliefs, wondering if what you hold dear is truly grounded in reality or just the remnants of old ideas you've never fully challenged? Lewis's journey was about more than intellectual curiosity, it was a search for something that could satisfy both his mind and his soul. He wrestled with his own sense of pride, his desire to remain in control of his life, and the fear that faith might require him to surrender more than he was willing to give. In his resistance, Lewis described himself as the most dejected and reluctant convert in all England. Yet beneath that reluctance was a deeper longing, a yearning for the truth he had spent years trying to rationalize away. Does that same longing exist within you? A desire for meaning, for something that transcends the ordinary, even as you resist the implications it may have on your life?
What is remarkable about Lewis's conversion is not its dramatic nature, but rather how profoundly ordinary it was. One day, as he rode in the sidecar of a motorcycle, he left home without believing in Christ, and by the time he arrived at the Whipsnade Zoo, he found that belief had quietly settled into his heart. This story reflects a truth many of us overlook, that the most transformative moments in our spiritual lives may not come with fireworks or sudden epiphanies, but through the gradual realignment of our hearts and minds. Can you imagine your own faith journey being less about an emotional high and more about the steady work of God in your soul, even in the everyday moments? Perhaps you, like Lewis, are on a road where you don't yet recognize the profound changes taking place within you.
Lewis's intellectual rigor didn't diminish with his conversion. Instead, it expanded. His newfound faith informed not only his spiritual life, but his professional work, leading to a prolific writing career that spanned decades. Within 2 years of becoming a Christian, he published Pilgrim's Regress, the first of many works that would blend deep philosophical insights with the imaginative power of storytelling. Lewis had a remarkable gift. He could take the complexities of Christian theology and make them accessible to a broad audience. Whether through the fictional temptation in the Screwtape Letters or the cosmic moral dilemmas in his space trilogy, Lewis invited readers to explore the deeper truths of life in ways that resonated with both heart and mind.
But perhaps his most beloved works remain the Chronicles of Narnia, a series that has captured the hearts of readers for generations. These stories were more than mere fantasy. They were reflections of Lewis's own faith journey, illustrating the battles between good and evil, the reality of sacrifice, and the promise of redemption. What is it about these stories that draws us in so deeply? Could it be that, like Lewis, we recognize that there is something more to life, an underlying truth that speaks to the deepest longings of our souls? Lewis's life reminds us that faith and reason are not enemies but partners in the journey toward understanding. His works, both apologetic and fictional, challenge us to think deeply, to question sincerely, and to engage fully with the life of faith. He never shied away from the hard questions, but instead used them as stepping stones to greater understanding. His journey from skepticism to belief is a testament to the power of both the mind and the heart in finding God.
We are, not metaphorically but in very truth, a divine work of art, something that God is making, and therefore something with which he will not be satisfied until it has a certain character. C.S. Lewis.
Have you ever wondered how love and suffering are so deeply intertwined? Why does it seem that the deeper we love, the more intense the pain when loss strikes? C.S. Lewis, a man who explored the depths of human emotion and spirituality, experienced this paradox in the most intimate way when he lost his beloved wife, Joy Davidman, to cancer. Their relationship, short-lived yet profound, began under the cloud of illness, with no promise of a long future together. This urgency made their love all the more intense, their time together filled with a shared passion for literature, faith, and companionship. For 2 years, they built a life of creativity and mutual fulfillment, yet all the while, Lewis was acutely aware of the fleeting nature of their happiness. Joy's temporary remission from cancer provided them with a brief window of happiness, but it was not to last.
Do you feel the weight of your own losses and wonder why such pain exists, especially when it follows a time of great joy? Lewis, like many of us, wrestled with these emotions. After Joy's death in 1960, he poured his grief into his book A Grief Observed, capturing the raw and unfiltered pain that comes with the loss of someone so dearly loved. In this deeply personal work, Lewis lays bare the emotional and spiritual turmoil that engulfed him, offering readers a glimpse into the heart of a man who had spent much of his life exploring faith and reason, now brought to his knees by suffering. His candid questions about God's goodness, the purpose of suffering, and the nature of love resonate with anyone who has experienced profound loss. How could a God of love allow such unbearable pain? And yet, Lewis never abandoned his faith. He questioned it, he struggled with it, but he did not walk away. He knew, as many of us come to understand, that love and suffering are inseparable, and it is through suffering that we are often transformed.
This transformation, this deep inner work that Lewis describes as God's hand molding us into something he will not let go unfinished, became central to his reflections on love and faith. Joy's death was not the end of their love, but the beginning of a deeper understanding of how love shapes the soul. For Lewis, love did not vanish with death. Rather, it continued to influence his life, shaping his thoughts and writings in ways that provided comfort to millions of readers. Have you ever felt that your pain, as unbearable as it may be, could lead you to a deeper truth or a higher understanding? Lewis believed that suffering, while painful, was a tool for spiritual refinement, something that shaped not only our faith but also our capacity to love. Their story, filled with both light and shadow, is a testament to the resilience of the human heart. Lewis's ability to articulate the complexities of love, loss, and faith has left an enduring legacy. Through his works, especially A Grief Observed, he invites us into his vulnerability, showing us that even in the darkest moments, we are never truly alone. We are part of something greater, a divine story, where our suffering is not in vain but serves a purpose beyond what we can see in the moment. In the face of deep personal pain, Lewis's writings remind us that love transcends death, and that through our most difficult trials, we can emerge with a faith that is stronger, more resilient, and ultimately more profound. We were promised sufferings. They were part of the program. We were even told, "Blessed are they that mourn," and I accepted. I've got nothing that I hadn't bargained for. C.S. Lewis. Have you ever felt that the weight of your suffering was too much to bear? Perhaps you've asked yourself, why do we endure so much pain when love, faith, and hope seem to slip through our grasp? C.S. Lewis, a man who faced the profound loss of his beloved wife Joy Davidman, asked these same questions. Despite the depth of his grief, Lewis's faith was never shattered. Instead, it deepened, and he emerged from that dark period with a richer, more nuanced understanding of love and suffering. In many ways, Joy's influence on Lewis transcended their brief time together. Her presence left an indelible mark on his soul, shaping his reflections on the human heart, grief, and the boundless nature of divine love. Their love story, however brief, stands as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of love to transform us, even amidst life's most agonizing trials.
Have you found yourself questioning how love can still bring life when it feels like loss has followed you out? Lewis's writings after Joy's death reflect a man who learned that real love doesn't die at a glance. In his book A Grief Observed, he wrestled with the pain, yet discovered a truth we often shy away from: love continues to change us even in death. Is it possible that the very things we fear losing those we cling to are the very things that God uses to reshape our souls?
This profound shift in Lewis's understanding wasn't only about personal love. It impacted his public life as well. On September 8, 1947, C.S. Lewis appeared on the cover of Time magazine, a significant moment in his public recognition, especially in the United States. The headline, "Oxford's C.S. Lewis, His Heresy Christianity," captured the paradox of his life, a scholar revered for his intellect but often criticized for his unwavering defense of Christianity. In a world growing increasingly skeptical of faith, Lewis stood firm, unafraid to defend what he knew to be true. Have you ever felt that standing for your beliefs makes you stand alone in the crowd? In an era where intellectual elites often mocked religious convictions, Lewis boldly articulated the reasonableness of faith. He was not only a brilliant scholar but also a Christian apologist who could bring the deepest mysteries of faith into the realm of logic. His defense of miracles, his philosophical inquiries, and his ability to blend intellect with faith presented a stark contrast to the skepticism of his time. Lewis reminded us that faith is not an escape from reality, but a way to confront it with courage and hope. Do you find yourself needing such courage today, in a world that often feels indifferent to your deepest beliefs? During World War II, Lewis's impact grew even stronger through a series of radio broadcasts on the BBC, which were later compiled into his book Mere Christianity. These broadcasts didn't just explain Christianity, they offered hope in a world ravaged by crisis. At a time of uncertainty, his calm, clear, and logical explanations of faith provided millions with an anchor, something steady to hold on to when everything else felt like it was falling apart. Can you imagine being one of those listeners, finding hope in his words when fear and chaos surrounded you? Lewis's rise to public prominence wasn't merely a personal achievement, it was a public acknowledgement of the power of faith to challenge and change the world. He bridged the gap between intellectual rigor and popular audiences, offering a message that still resonates today. In a world increasingly skeptical of religion, Lewis didn't offer easy answers, but he provided a well-reasoned argument for faith, showing us that belief isn't blind, it's a thoughtful, deliberate choice to trust in something greater than ourselves. As we continue this journey exploring the life and legacy of C.S. Lewis, take a moment to reflect on how his story speaks to your own struggles. Are you grappling with doubt, loss, or the tension between intellect and faith? Lewis's life shows us that these struggles are part of the journey, and that faith, when fully embraced, can transform our greatest pains into sources of profound strength. Please like and comment below. Your thoughts are a vital part of this ongoing conversation, and together we can explore how Lewis's wisdom continues to light our path today. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. C.S. Lewis. Have you ever felt like you're walking a tightrope between your mind and heart, as if reason pulls you in one direction while deep longing pulls you in another? That inner conflict between doubt and belief, between intellect and imagination, is one that many of us face in our spiritual journeys. C.S. Lewis understood this struggle well, as he navigated through it himself, transforming his writings into a beacon of light for anyone grappling with their faith. Born out of this tension, Lewis masterfully combined reason and imagination, inviting his readers to explore the Christian faith not only with the intellect, but with the deepest longings of the heart. Lewis argued that Christianity is either of no importance if it is false or of infinite importance if true, leaving no room for indifference. How do you respond when faced with such a stark choice? Do you allow doubt to silence your longing, or do you press into the mystery with the hope that both reason and faith can find harmony? Lewis's analogy of Christianity and the sunrise, where belief is not simply about seeing, but about how it illuminates everything else, is a powerful invitation to shift our perspective. Like the warmth of the morning light, faith can seem distant at first, but as it grows, it casts a new light on everything we thought we understood. Are you yearning for that light to penetrate the darkness of confusion or pain in your life? Perhaps you've been wrestling with questions of why the world seems so broken, or why your own heart feels so fragmented. Lewis's writings remind us that these feelings of pain and longing are not just signs of brokenness, but evidence of our desire for something more, something eternal. This longing, which he described as sensat, is a divine ache within the soul, pointing us toward our true home. His fiction, especially the Chronicles of Narnia, speaks directly to this deep spiritual yearning. The world of Narnia, with its talking animals, battles between good and evil, and the majestic Aslan, is not merely a fantasy realm but a reflection of our own spiritual battles. When the Pevensey children meet Aslan, they aren't just stepping into a magical world, they're encountering Christ in a way that reveals the power of redemption, forgiveness, and love. Lewis uses these imaginative stories to help us confront the battles in our own hearts, battles between doubt and faith, sin and grace, fear and hope. Do you find yourself, like the children of Narnia, caught between the fear of an unknown future and the hope that something greater awaits? Yet, Lewis doesn't stop at stories. His intellectual works, such as Mere Christianity and The Problem of Pain, provide a framework for understanding the challenges we face in believing in a good and loving God amidst a world full of suffering. He doesn't shy away from the difficult questions. Instead, he dives deep, acknowledging that pain, while bewildering, can serve a redemptive purpose. In your own life, have you ever wondered why God allows suffering? Have you questioned His goodness during your hardest moments? Lewis's honesty about his own grief, and a grief observed, written after the death of his beloved wife, Joy Davidman, opens a space for us to ask these questions. He doesn't offer easy answers, but instead points us toward the possibility that in our pain, God is not absent, but closer than ever, whispering hope into our wounds. This blend of intellectual inquiry and deep personal vulnerability is what makes Lewis's works resonate with such a wide audience. Whether you are seeking answers to life's big questions or simply need reassurance in your darkest hour, Lewis's words offer both. His conviction that faith and reason are not at odds but are, in fact, complementary forces, gives us permission to wrestle with doubt and still find hope. Can you embrace both your questions and your longings? Can you allow faith to be not just a series of logical arguments, but the very light that helps you make sense of the world around you? In an age where skepticism often reigns, Lewis's writings encourage us not to dismiss faith as mere fantasy, but to see it as the key to understanding reality itself. Like Aslan's breath in Narnia, faith brings the dead to life and turns stone back into flesh. What in your life feels frozen, without hope, as though it's turned to stone? Are you ready for that breath of life, for the dawn of faith that can change everything? You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. C.S. Lewis. Have you ever found yourself questioning your beliefs, wondering if faith is more than just something you were taught? Perhaps you've experienced moments of doubt, where the intellectual and spiritual worlds seem to clash. C.S. Lewis, a man once consumed by atheism and skepticism, understood this battle well. His journey from disbelief to faith wasn't a straight line, but a complex process filled with questions, intellectual wrestling, and ultimately, a surrender to a reality greater than himself. He lived what so many of us feel, a tension between what we can understand and what we hope to believe. Lewis's ability to merge intellectual curiosity with deep personal faith made him stand out in a world often divided between the head and the heart. His legacy speaks to those who seek a faith that doesn't dismiss reason but embraces it, encouraging us to question, to explore, and to dive deeper into the unknown. Through the fantastical lands of Narnia, the reasoned arguments of mere Christianity, and the raw pain and a grief observed, Lewis extends an invitation not just to think about God, but to experience Him with every part of who we are. I believe in Christianity as I believe that the sun has risen, not only because I see it, but because by it I see everything else. C.S. Lewis. Have you ever found yourself wrestling with faith, wondering how belief in God can coexist with the very real pain and struggles of life? Lewis himself faced these difficult questions, enduring profound losses and personal grief that tested his faith deeply. His story isn't one of easy answers, but one of courage in the midst of uncertainty. How do we hold on to faith when life feels overwhelmingly hard, when the questions seem bigger than the answers we can find? In Lewis's own words, faith is not about ignoring the struggles, but about embracing them, knowing that God's presence is most often revealed not in certainty, but in the midst of our doubts. When was the last time you allowed yourself to fully feel the tension between your desire for clarity and the confusion life so often brings? We all yearn for answers, for a roadmap that makes sense of our circumstances, but living faith isn't built on easy resolutions. It is grown in the soil of questions, uncertainty, and even suffering. C.S. Lewis's journey from skepticism to faith was not a linear path. It was marked by heartbreak, doubt, and a relentless pursuit of truth. His writings often return to this theme, showing that the beauty of faith lies in its ability to withstand the storms of life, to remain standing even when every logical reason seems to waver. Do you believe that God's grace might be working quietly, even in your deepest struggles? Lewis's story teaches us that faith is dynamic. It breathes, it bends, and it endures. It's not a shield that protects us from hardship, but a steadying force that allows us to navigate through it. His life illustrates that faith isn't merely an intellectual exercise, it's a relationship that grows through experience, through suffering, and through joy. This is the same kind of faith that Jesus spoke about, a faith that holds fast, even when the winds of life threaten to tear it apart. So what if, instead of seeking perfect answers, you leaned into the questions? What if, like Lewis, you allowed the tension between faith and reason to deepen your relationship with God, instead of weakening it? His legacy is one of bringing these two often opposed forces, faith and intellect, together in a way that challenges us to think deeply while trusting fully. He shows us that reason doesn't have to destroy faith, rather, it can illuminate deeper truths, helping us to see beyond what is immediate and into what is eternal. Stay with us as we journey through the writings and thoughts of C.S. Lewis, reflecting on how his experiences might resonate with your own. Whether you are battling doubt or longing for a deeper connection with God, His story reminds us that faith can meet us right where we are. Share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Your perspective is important as we explore together how Lewis's life can help us navigate our own spiritual paths. Let's continue this conversation, finding hope and meaning in the complexities of faith and reason.